sorry.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Society Girl Saves the World, where we discuss all things connected to the world of Desi cinema. The film we will be talking about today was released back in the spring of 1979. 1979 was a difficult period for the creative arts in Pakistan because we were under a military dictatorship which stamped down on anything thought-provoking and indeed anything creative. So it was a difficult time for cinema. Well documented is the case of a film called Maula Jat, which was banned during this period for being anti-state and anti-government and had people in the government getting very nervous. The film went on to become one of the biggest successes in the history of Pakistani cinema, which clearly suggested that there was a certain amount of rebelliousness in the air and people refused to be cowed down to the dictatorship. Around the same time of Maula Jat's release, we had another film directed by Rangila, who was famous for being a comedian, also sometimes a singer and now a director as well. And he released a film by the name of Aurat Raj, the cast of which had an array of Lollywood stars, among them being Waheed Murad, Rani, Sultan Rahi, Chakori, Naghma, Khanam, Rangila himself, Nanna, Badar Munir, Asif Khan, Usman Pirzada, Yasmin Khan, Ali Ejaz, Kamal Irani, Shah Nawaz and Khalid Salim Mota, amongst others.
Aurat Raj दुनिया दे तमाम सर्किट विच कामयाबी नाल जुलूस काट रही है औरत राज
मर्दों की पिटाई के लिए सबसे बेहतर औरत राज औरत राज.
Rangila will always go down in Lollywood history as a bit of an enigma. He started off as a bodybuilder aspiring to become a romantic hero, but it didn't quite work out for him because of the disproportionate size of his body. And he seemed to find a niche for himself within cinema as a comedian, but he also then turned to direction and found some major success. Seemingly just an undergrown and enormously irritating moron of the worst kind, there is far more to him than initially seems apparent. Though he managed to make a certain amount of headway doing the usual cliché-ridden comedy roles as the retarded Khansama or sidekick, his real break came when he self-directed his film called Diya Aur Tufan, which clicked massively. Suddenly, Rangila was no longer a small-time comedian but a major commercial force, ready to tap into a market thirsting for something out of the ordinary. Rangila had already carved out a niche for himself in the industry when he decided to produce and direct Aurat Raj from an idea of Shaukat Thanvi. What he managed to create remains one of the most groundbreaking films in Lollywood history. He also managed to camouflage his razor-sharp satire with the most hysteria-inducing comedy farce. This movie will have you squirming in delight at the insane events unfolding on screen. Rangila may have fallen from grace irredeemably after his much maligned magnum opus Kubra Ashik, but Aurat Raj displays his considerable talent as a uniquely thoughtful director. This overtly ridiculous farce of a film shows that the man once had somewhat of a magic touch and was able to concoct a most sinfully delicious cocktail of political and social satire fused with madcap high farce when given a free rein. Aurat Raj begins with Waheed Murad as a despicable, womanizing, philandering husband to his miserable wife Rani.
मगर वो राह रास्त पर कब आएंगे? उनको घर का ख्याल कब आएगा? बताओ मैं किसी से कम हूँ?
जी नहीं बेगम साहिबा।
तो फिर ये जुल्म क्यों हो रहा है? मेरे हामिद को समझाने वाला कोई नहीं, उसे कोई नहीं कहता कि अपने घर की शरीफ बीवी को छोड़कर बाहर की आवारा औरतों के साथ रंग लिए क्यों मनाते हो?
ये तो आप ही समझा सकती हैं, अगर हिम्मत से काम लें तो।
He does absolutely everything that he possibly can to ridicule and humiliate his wife at all times and spends his time pulling tarts at the local dance club. Rani pleads with him incessantly to see sense, return home to his dutiful wife and son they have created from this miserable marriage.
सूफिया ने जिंदगी हराम कर रखी है।
तो तुम उसकी जिंदगी हराम कर दो, उसके सामने बम का धमाका कर दो।
क्या मतलब?
उसे तलाक दे दो।
हक महर देना पड़ेगा।
तो फिर उसे जान से मार दो।
फांसी लग जाएगी।
तो फिर क्या होगा?
मैं मर जाऊंगा।
इस तरह रोज रोज मरने से एक बार मर जाना ज्यादा बेहतर है। तकरीब नंबर 88 ये है कि तुम रोज घर में एक नई औरत लेकर जाओ। सूफिया भाभी ये मंजर देखकर भट्टी की तरह जल जाएगी और उसे तुमसे नफरत हो जाएगी। फिर वो तुमसे खुद ही तलाक ले लेगी। इस तरह हक महर भी बच जाएगा और तुम्हारी गैरत का फ्यूज भी उड़ जाएगा।
But Waheed Murad refuses to conform in any way and continues to bring home his sleazy girlfriends, referring to Rani as a servant, mocking and humiliating her at every opportunity.
डार्लिंग, ये कौन है?
ये मेरी नौकरानी है। आपके इंतजार में बेगम साहिबा अभी तक भूखी बैठी हुई है। अरे तुम्हें क्या हो बिजली?
धोखेबाज, जब तुम्हारे घर में बीवी थी तो फिर मुझे यहाँ क्यों लाई?
अरे ये बीवी नहीं है, ये नागिन है, मेरी खुशियों की दुश्मन है। औरत मर्द के पांव की जूती होती है, मगर ये कहती है मैं जूती नहीं, वो बेआवाज लाठी हूँ जो किसी वक्त भी मर्दों के सर पे चल सकती है। ये बीवी नहीं, मेरे रास्ते का कांटा है बिजली।
ये कांटा नहीं, फूल है। कांटे तुम हो, सालिम इंसान। अगर तुम इस नेक सिर्फ बीवी के नहीं बन सके तो मेरे क्या बनोगे? मैं जा रही हूँ।
तुम नहीं, ये जाएगी।
Finally, Rani snaps and is unwilling to take any more. She vows to fight her lecherous vermin of a husband and the entire male populace she feels need to taste some justice for their vile treatment of women.
मैंने तुम्हें तलाक दी, तलाक दी, तलाक दी।
परवेज, मैं तुमसे इस तलाक का बहुत भयानक इंतकाम लूंगी।
ये तुमने बहुत बुरा किया बेटी।
डैडी, तुम मर्दों के बुरे फैसले भी अच्छे होते हैं और हम औरतों के अच्छे फैसले भी बुरे होते हैं, इसलिए क्या हम आते हैं, मजलूम और पाँव की चूती है। तो अब ऐसा नहीं होगा डैडी, औरत मजलूम रहेगी ना पाँव की चूती। जिस चार दीवारी में औरत का दम घुसा रहा है, अब वहाँ मर्दों की सिद्धियाँ होगी।
नहीं, ऐसा कभी नहीं हो सकता।
मैं ऐसा करके
Thus, Rani joins up with many equally driven feminists fighting for justice, and their effort begins to steamroller rapidly into a considerable political movement. Before the girl power translates into political power, its strength is first felt on the streets, as hordes of girl gangs take to the roads, thrashing the living daylights out of their male counterparts.
औरत राज जिंदाबाद! औरत राज जिंदाबाद! मेरी बहनों, मैंने बहुत कोशिश की कि मेरा शौहर राह रास्त पर आ जाए, लेकिन मैं नाकाम रही। आखिर तंग आकर मैंने उससे तलाक ले ली है। सुनिए, खुदा के लिए चुप हो जाइए। मैं आपको यकीन दिलाती हूँ, जब तक मैं मर्दों की जालिमाना सियासत को नाकाम नहीं बना देती, चैन से नहीं बैठूंगी।
खामोश, खामोश। औरत मर्द का मुकाबला नहीं कर सकती। हम जब चाहें, जहां चाहें, उसे चूंटी की तरह मसल के फेंक सकते हैं।
बहुत अच्छा किया है। दुनिया की तमाम मर्द जात ने अंधेर मचाया हुआ है और सदियों से वो हमें अपने पांव की जूती समझते रहे हैं, लेकिन हमने फिर भी उन्हें अपने सर का ताज माना। अब इस ताज को हम अपने सैंडलों के नीचे रोन देंगे। अब आपके सामने रहीला अपने ख्यालात का इजहार करेंगे। मेरी बहनों, मेरा ये दावा है कि औरत राज जरूर आएगा, जरूर आएगा, जरूर आएगा।
Hysteria reigns until the police finally manage to control the battle of the sexes and pacify their leaders by informing them that they will be able to fight a general election. Whichever party wins shall rule the roost and call the shots. And so we have the Aurat Raj party led by the vindictive Rani and her team of demented feminists consisting of Naghma Chakori, Khanam, Sheila Gill and others. At the same time, a misogynist male party headed by Waheed Murad and his male chauvinist pigs stands in belligerent opposition. Girl power manages to thrive and take the reins of government due mainly to their powers of seduction. Suddenly the country is faced with an all-female leadership with a vengeance against male toxicity as their primary agenda. Rani's obsession with revenge clouds her political decision-making. She purchases a hugely expensive bomb, when ignited, will turn all the men of the country into simpering women and turn the women into baritoned voiced females strutting around like demented men. The bomb carries a heavy price though, as to pay for it Rani has to loan half the country to the foreign bomb sellers as collateral. Her decision causes much resentment amongst the ranks, dissenters quitting the party, notably Chakori, the high-ranking finance minister. Once Rani's hell-bent government takes control, mayhem ensues with the detonation of the dreaded sex bomb. The country turned upside down and events on the screen turn into a total riot. Hairy-chested burly men are transformed into simpering, pathetic women with girly voices, while the women mutate into macho men with typically deranged mentalities. The scenes of Waheed Murad in drag, doing the pelvic thrusts and tumkas, complete with sexy facial expressions, as in the song Aaj Tumke Pe Tumka Lagana Padega, are among the most hysterical in Lollywood history. Poor Sultan Rahi, playing himself, is transformed from super macho Jat king of the screen to a whimpering woman running from pillar to post, trying desperately to avoid having her izzat being looted by the marauding Chakori Phaddebaz.
उफ अल्लाह, ये क्या हो गया? मैं सुल्तान राय से सायरा बानू कैसे बन गया? अब मेरी इन फिल्मों का क्या बनेगा जिनमें मैं बाकायदगी से मर्द था? अब तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है जैसे खंजर चलाने के बजाय मुझे जाकर मुजरा करना पड़ेगा। ओए अल्लाह, अभी मैं गिर पड़ी था।
These are some of the most sublimely ridiculous scenes yet witnessed in Pakistani movie history. The great song sequences shot on Rahi and Waheed in drag are the most fabulous Pisstake on Lollywood sexism, with the lingering close-ups on the hips and bust region and the subtle use of the zoom lens. The film manages to lampoon everything about Pakistani movies and society: politics, male chauvinism, tradition, pseudo-religious customs, racism, you name it. Rangila says it like it is, with tongue firmly in cheek.
बात तो पक्की ही समझो, मगर इतना बताओ कि आपकी लड़की काम क्या करती है?
बहुत बड़ी फैक्ट्री में काम करती है। 700 रुपया माहवार लेती है मेरी बच्ची। अम्मा, इन्हें ये भी तो बता दीजिए ना कि पार्ट टाइम में मनियारी की दुकान की करती है।
वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड। ये तो आपने बताया नहीं कि आपकी लड़की की तालीम क्या है। अरे भाई, हमारे खानदान में लड़कों को ज्यादा तालीम नहीं दिलवाते। बस 4 जमातें पढ़ाकर पर्दे में कर लिया मैंने लाडले को। माशाल्लाह, मेरे लाडले ने 3 दफा कुरान शरीफ खत्म कर लिया है और ईमान से मेरे लाडले ने घर का तमाम सलीका सीख लिया। मसलन सीना परोना, कशीदाकारी करना, स्वेटर बुनना, कागज के फूल बनाना, झाड़ू देना, बर्तन धोना और घर की सफाई भी कर लेता है।
हमें ये रिश्ता मंजूर है। हम अगले इतवार को अपनी बेटी की बारात लेके आ जाएंगे।
Rangila has taken a pot shot at it and done so with joyous success. The bit where it is so evident that a prospective bride's only essential commodity is her whiteness of skin rings so true. All the songs about Gore Gore Gal or Gori Kalaiya or Gora Mukhras speak volumes about the rampant racism that is part of the fair and lovely complex, plaguing all of South Asia, including Pakistan.
वालेकुम। आज की रात हमारी जिंदगी की यादगार रात है। मुद्दत से ये आरज़ू थी कि अपने सरताज का घूंघट उठाऊंगी। क्या मैं अपने नौरानी शौहर का हसीन चेहरा देख सकती हूँ?
यस, व्हाई नॉट?
सुर्ख शोलों में लिपटा हुआ मेरी तकदीर का हसीन चांद अगर बाहर आ जाए तो रात के सन्नाटे में हलचल मच जाए। ला हौल वला कुव्वत। ये जान है या पुजीस मेरी? या अल्लाह, मेरी माँ ने मेरी शादी किस छुआरे के साथ कर दी है?
If one was to criticize the film at all, perhaps there is one song too many, but that's being nitpicky. On the whole, it's a magnificently successful and sizzlingly acidic satire on the way things are here in the land of the pure.
सुल्तान रही नहीं, सुल्ताना बिचारी कहो। तुमने हमें किसी काबिल नहीं छोड़ा। खुदा का लोगो, मैं बेशुजत, मैं बशीरा, मैं मोलचक। लेकिन इस कमबख्त की बच्ची ने जनाना बम फाड़कर मुझे शेर से बकरी बना दिया। ए मेरे खुदा, मैनू इस जलील मौत तो बचा के इस बारी फिर मर्दाना बम फाड़ के मैनू ताकत वापस कर दे मेरे मौला। ओए मेरे हाथ गंडा सा होवे, ओए चुरिया हान, ओए पेन गन होवे। मैं उस दुश्मन दिया दंगा वक्त दिया चेहरा मेरे पाक वतन दी दिल पे कदम रखे। हाँ, या अल्लाह तेरा शुक्र है, छत फाड़ के सिपाही और मैं फरंगी कौम दिया नस्ल मिटा दूंगा।
Rangila has genuinely hit the spot with this classic, and it ranks as one of Lollywood's finest moments. The acting, especially by Waheed Murad and Sultan Rahi, is astoundingly brilliant. Firstly, one has to credit the actors for taking on roles that invite ridicule. They perform their parts fabulously, and Waheed Murad's antics in the song sequences are the stuff of legend. He deserves the highest accolades for his show-stopping effort. In one scene, the editor Rahmat Ali slips up slightly in one of the song sequences. The climax done is a Pisstake of Rani's death dance in the film Anjuman, where the viewer can see Waheed Murad crack up during the song. The cut was a little bit late on this occasion, and all is revealed. And Waheed Murad cracking up in laughter goes with the insane flavor of the film on the whole.
मैं तो तुम्हें बताना ही भूल गया, कल के प्रोग्राम के बारे में कुछ पता भी है तुझे? ले बबले बता। अरे फुम्मन, कल 3 बजे हमारे घर आना ना भूलना, हमने सुए बाजार जाके चूड़ियाँ चढ़वानी है। अल्लाह भाई, कल मैं नहीं आ सकूंगा। क्यों? मेरी डैडी ने एडवांस बुकिंग करवाई है। हमने कल फिल्म देखनी है, औरत राज। खुदा हाफिज।
Aurat Raj is Rangila doing a Monty Python on Pakistani films and society. It's easily the funniest spoof ever to come out of Lollywood. Between the lines, it's also one of the most potent. It was stirring, epic stuff from the writer, producer, director, songwriter, a triumph for the multi-talented, insane genius of Rangila. The government was reeling from the after effects of the blatantly anti-establishment Mola Jat, and they found Aurat Raj a little bit too subversive for decent, politically correct audiences. The film was found objectionable by many in government. Good satire usually has that effect on the establishment, and Aurat Raj is arguably the finest of its kind to emerge from the chaos known as Lollywood. Any society that squirms at satire is obviously a very insecure one. Insecure in its beliefs and its methods. Recently, Monty Python's Life of Brian was criticized as blasphemous from the corridors of power, yet it's acclaimed as one of the most brilliant comedies ever filmed in most parts of the civilized world. Some fictitious humor can threaten only those who are utterly insecure. The same custodians of morality speak very highly of such films as Rambo and Death Wish and similar vigilante trash. When humor and satire can shake a society's morals to the core, then very evidently that community has little faith in its own convictions. Aurat Raj would possibly not even be allowed today, as it dares to poke fun at some home truths. As when it comes to looking at ourselves in the mirror, we can't often deal with the duplicity and the hypocrisy that stares us in the face. Satire is pretty much dead here in Pakistan because we are too insecure about shining a light on our own failings, as the truth hurts far too much. Some experts and film critics have referred to Aurat Raj as a feminist film, but is it really a feminist film at all? Aurat Raj does indeed focus on numerous issues confronting women in our society, yet in conclusion the film suggests that women are hopeless when in a position of power and leadership. The film reminds one of the classic episodes from the 1960s Batman TV series when Nora Clavicle and her team of girls seize Gotham City's administration, only to be entirely horribly undone by some pesky rats. Will this unique cult classic slice of satire spoofing Pakistani culture and cinema ever see the light of day again? The fact is, the last remaining 35mm print of the classic now resides safely in the United Kingdom with Mondo Macabro and Bubonic Films. But sadly the film's print is quite battered and far from being in pristine condition that it once was. However, while it exists, there can always be hope. There is an illegal version of the film on YouTube which has no sound, and sadly YouTube won't allow the legal version to be shared. So the film remains in limbo as it has for decades now. A tragic loss for film enthusiasts, as this is one of the finest films ever produced in Pakistan. And this brings us to the end of another round of Society Girl Saves the World. Hopefully you enjoyed the review and that you'll be back to listen in sometime in the future. Until then, stay safe and be good.